Hi, this is the second part of Knowledge Management System Lifecycle lecture. For this part, we are going to compare and contrast the System Development Lifecycle and Knowledge Management System Lifecycle. The differences and also similarities can be viewed in terms of its processes and also the people involved in both of these life cycle. So I'm sure that you are all familiar with SDLC. Okay, so generally any system development or application development would use SDLC. Generally, it has phases such as planning, analysis, design, implementation, and also testing. Generally, these phases are the standards in SDLC. Of course, SDLC has variations such as the waterfall model, the evolutionary model, the prototyping, rapid, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm sure that you are all familiar with this. However, knowledge management system lifecycle is a little bit different. But I guess that it all this lifecycle basically derived from SDLC. So for the knowledge management system lifecycle, it has 8 phases. First is evaluating in existing infrastructure. Then you would form the KM team. Uh, Once you have formed the KM team, which includes one of it will be the knowledge engineer and also the experts, the domain experts, you would proceed with knowledge capture. The next process is designing the KM blueprint. Okay, so this KM blueprint is more or less, it looks like the OSI model, if you are familiar with the OSI model. So it is based on that. The outcome of this KM blueprint will be the KMS, and you need to verify and validate the knowledge management system, the KMS that you are developing with the domain experts, with the users. You have to ensure that whatever that the query or the input or the search that the user enters in the KMS, the appropriate knowledge will be delivered back to the user. So this knowledge that is being delivered back to the user needs to be verified and also validated by the domain expert. So once that is done, you would implement the knowledge management system, and then as I said in the previous video, that some business processes tends to change. People tend to work, have to change their routine when this knowledge management system is in place. Therefore, this change needs to be managed, and some form of reward needs to be devised so that uh, users would actually use the knowledge management system. And then you would have the post-system evaluation to see the effectiveness of the knowledge management system, whether it brings value to the organization, whether it benefits the people or the employees, whether it enhances the learning of the employees within the organization. You would also notice that there is a dash arrow line from verify and validate KM system. Okay, from here to knowledge capture. This indicates that knowledge is always evolving. There will always be new knowledge that is being posted. So once new knowledge is added, you need to again verify that and also and validate that knowledge. Of course, knowledge is captured from again from the experts. Okay, so the knowledge management system must have the flexibility to add new knowledge. So that is why in knowledge management system, it uses the prototyping or rapid application development as the basis for the KMS development. Like I said earlier, you can see the similarities and also differences in terms of processes. So this slide shows the similarities and differences between the SDLC and KMSLC. If you notice, the font in blue and bold is the similarities. Okay, the one which is in black and not bold are the differences. For SDLC, primarily the process are sequential. It starts with the first process and then proceeds to the second process, the third process, and so on. In other words, uh, in order for process 2 to be executed, process 1 needs to be executed first. Okay. For SDLC, the system testing is normally done at the end. So this is typical to a waterfall model in which that you go through all the process and in developing the system, and at the end of that process of the development is the system testing. SDLC is process driven or specify then build because in system development, it always begins with a process. There's a process that you want to develop the system on. Okay, and it begins with a problem, or it might begin with an opportunity, and it ends with a solution. For SDLC, you would have to gather user requirements first, and you gather that from the users. Okay. Generally, the testing is to make sure that the system is right and it is the right system. And also, when developing the system, the developers must choose the appropriate tools or the suitable tools in developing the system. Okay, let's look at knowledge management system life cycle. If SDLC is sequential from one process to the other, uh, KMSLC is incremental and also interactive. It is always evolving. It is always building up from something which is quite small into something which is big. You might have a very small knowledge base to begin with, and then as new knowledge being added, it grows and it becomes bigger and also more robust. The system testing, if SDLC testing is done at the end, but for KMSLC, the system testing evolves from beginning of the cycle. So you want to make sure that the knowledge that you get from the expert is correct, is validated, and then that when the user try to access that knowledge, the user will get the right knowledge. So if you again if you compare that with SDLC would involve only the users and the system analysts, because the users are the process owner. They know about the process. But for knowledge management system lifecycle, it involves not only the user but also the domain expert, the knowledge engineer, and also the developer. So because of that many people involved in developing a knowledge management system, you have to ensure that the knowledge that you capture from the experts are correct, are robust, and comprehensive. And also at the same time, you want to ensure that when the user query a knowledge, the right knowledge is being delivered to the user. So at the end of the day, it's about result. Okay, it's about results. So knowledge management system lifecycle is result oriented. There's no process. You are not trying to make a process more effective. It all boils down to whether the user or the knowledge recipient will get the knowledge that they want, and that knowledge is the right knowledge. So knowledge management system lifecycle is result oriented. In other words, you start slow and grow. And if you look at the font, the blue font, it begins with a problem and ends with a solution. These are all similar with the SDLC. Okay. Testing is to ensure that the system is right and it is the right system, and also developer needs to choose appropriate tools in designing a knowledge management system. For knowledge management system, the actual process, the actual KMS development, it begins with the knowledge capture. It begins with when the knowledge engineer captures knowledge or extract knowledge uh, from the experts. Okay. Okay, for people, just like I said, for SDLC, the only people involved, one of the people involved in SDLC is the system analyst or the user. It's easier. System analyst and the user. The system analyst will interact with the user in gathering requirements from the system. So what the system analyst is gathering, yeah, it's a requirement, but it's actually is data and also information. Okay. So the user, they are the process owner, they know the problem of the process, but they have no idea on what would be the solution to address that problem. For knowledge management system lifecycle, uh, the people involved is the knowledge engineer or the knowledge capturer and also the experts. The knowledge developer deal with the knowledge captured from experts. Okay. For in SDLC, system analysts deal with information, but for KMSLC, the knowledge developer deal with the knowledge capture. And the domain experts knows the problem, okay, and also the solution. All right. So this is different from the SDLC, in which the user knows the problem, but they do not know the solution. All right. So, and again, another differences that you can see from this is that in SDLC, the system will be used by the user, but in KMSLC, the KMS will not be used by the experts because the experts are the knowledge source. The user in KMS is actually the knowledge recipient. Okay. So this table shows the differences between users and experts. Okay, just like I mentioned in the previous slide, the dependence on the system is high for user, which means that the user will use the system that is developed using SDLC. But for the expert, they will not use the knowledge management system. The person that will use the knowledge management system will be the knowledge recipient. Okay, so these are some of the other attributes such as cooperation, tolerance for ambiguity, knowledge of problem, contribution to system user, availability for system builder. Okay, so I think that you can, yeah, it's self-explanatory, I guess. If you look at the attributes, you would appreciate why user has very low on a particular attribute, an expert has a very high, for example, on a particular attribute. Okay, so this is activity 2. We'll discuss this next week.